I'm Larry Folden. I'm the local consultant for the Northern Ontario Angels. And I'm here to introduce my good friend, Benton Leong. Benton is the co-founder of mathematics-based software company Maplesoft and an active angel investor in the Golden Triangle Angel Network. He also founded Radical Flow, a company that produces interactive curriculum-ware for the sciences and engineering. His expertise covers strategic planning, global market development, and user product design. Earlier in his career, Benton was a computer science professor at the University of Waterloo. What's not on the paper is that Benton came here 4 years ago and saw the potential that we have as a community. And he offered to help in any way he could to bring that potential forward. And that's why he's here tonight. And it's a great honor to welcome Benton Leong.
Thank you, Larry. I would just step aside over here. I don't like to stand behind the podium, and sometimes I don't even use a mic because I'm used to talking to about 500 students at a time when I give lectures, and so I can broadcast. If it gets to be too loud in the back, go like this, and I'll lower the volume. Okay, but I am so pleased to be back in this community that I've grown so fond of, and I know that there are people who are critical about what's here because we tend to be critics of what we love best, right? But as an outsider, I think that what I might be able to share with you is how you've really sort of underestimated what you have, and in fact, how you really have the foundational pieces of a really strong innovation ecosystem. So if we can get the next slide up, please. Okay, so in terms of an innovation economy, what am I talking about? What makes for an innovation economy? Two main pieces. One is technology that drives change. Technology that disrupts the way that we do things, the way that we think of things, right? But it's got to be technology that doesn't make advances just incrementally, but in terms of large quantum jumps, right? It's got to be really innovative. It's got to be game-changing. Those are the types of things that will change the nature of business, change the nature of ways that we think, and it doesn't have to involve things like nanotechnology necessarily, or deep chemistry. It could be just a new idea of learning how to exploit technology that just changes everything. I'll give you one example of that. Uber. Who would have ever thought that the taxi industry, an old order economy business with people and cars, would be disrupted by technology? But Uber came up with that idea of utilizing underused capital assets to put both people and capital assets to work, and look at how the transportation industry has completely been upended by an innovation like Uber. So these are the big changes that I look for as an investor. And when you can bring these together, both the use of technology in order to affect faster changes, deeper changes, and something that is truly innovative, you get to create an innovation economy that changes the way that society works, changes the way that we buy things, think of things, use things, solve long-standing problems in the medical space, in our health, right? Those come from innovation and innovation economy. Okay, next slide, please. So in terms of the impact of an innovation economy, yeah, sure, they grow quickly, they create new jobs, high-value jobs, right? Not more people working at McDonald's, but jobs that require critical thinking, the kinds of skills that we teach at a place like Nipissing University that requires some academic discipline, reasoning, and vision. And we also produce export products. So many times when I talk to young entrepreneurs and they present their business plan to me, they say, oh, we're going to go after the market in Waterloo. And then after that, if we're successful there, we're going to test it out in Guelph. And I said, my God, are you building your whole business plan on one tank of gasoline in terms of where you can go? There is nothing at all Canadian about the problem that you're trying to solve or the solutions that you come up with. Why aren't you going global at once? Why are you afraid to penetrate the southern border and get into the U.S. market or into the Chinese market or the European market? And in fact, most of the things that I see up here in Northern Ontario, they're global in nature. Certainly your mining industry are producing assets and export products for the whole world. The same is also true of your tech companies, right? Don't think small. Don't think just Northern Ontario, or even Canada. Think about how what you do can impact people everywhere. And that's a mindset that many of the Canadian founders that I work with have to break through. I don't have such a hard time working with U.S. founders, the people out in California. They're thinking globally on day one. So it's a cultural thing. Okay. But think about the impact to Canada as a country when the products that we produce, the services that we produce are global in nature. They help us balance that imbalance of trade with other trading countries throughout the world. And something else that was brought to me on the first day that I visited here several years ago was that Benton, one of the problems that we're having is that we're losing our youth. They see that North Bay, Sudbury, Northern Ontario is not as exciting as a place like Montreal or Waterloo or San Francisco as a place to start a career where there are hip jobs, there are fashionable companies that have great perks. We've got mining, we've got timber, and people don't find that, not all of our youth find that exciting, and we're losing some of them. And you know about the population decline over the past decade or so in this area. So what can we do to retain some of the best minds, some of the top talent that Northern Ontario produces to have them stay here? That is the case. Part of the solution is creating that innovation economy. And they say, this is where it happens. This is where things get done. This is where we create some of the solutions that the entire world can. That's what we're after here. And there's no reason why it can't be done. And in fact, with a lot of the companies that I've helped in the Waterloo area, in the Toronto area, the kind of solutions that they're working on, they can be done right here. They don't need cyclotron. They don't need scanning electron microscope. They need smart ideas, and they need people to work with them on creating their minimally viable product. I'll give you one example of the company. It's a company called ApplyBoard. ApplyBoard, when I started working with them, they were a 5-person company. Their idea was that many students from abroad want to come to Canada, want to come to the U.S. to study, to become students. And it's hard for them. They don't know about the entrance requirements. They don't know how to get a visa to get into the country. They don't know which schools are a good match for them. Not everybody's going to be a good match for MIT or Harvard. But in terms of getting into North America, where can they go? What is the fit for them? It's as simple as that. It doesn't involve natural language processing at the time. It doesn't involve, deep AI. It was just simply matching students to educational institutions. That idea took off like wildfire. And in fact, this is one of the most successful companies that I know. About a year and a half ago, when they got another round of funding, that company had thousands of employees since 2015 and was valued at $4 billion. Right? I challenge you to come up with another company that's grown that quickly in terms of both job and valuation, while remaining a private company, not a public company, not publicly listed. Right? That is a runaway success. But I know this company. I know what they do. I know the CEO. Everything that they do could have been done right here in North Bay. They didn't need lots of medical equipment. They had a brilliant idea. They worked hard at it, and they grew this fantastic company. Could have been North Bay instead of Waterloo. Now, if you had an innovation economy here, another benefit of it is that you will start to attract talent from all around the world. They'll come here to North Bay to enrich your community. You'll get some of the smartest people that will want to be here because things are exciting here. Ideas are being germinated here. Jobs are being created. And your products are being used throughout the world, and they've heard of North Bay. So that is another one of the benefits from the innovation economy. Next slide, please. But in addition to those things which are economic, which are creation of jobs, creation of wealth, there are some secondary impacts that would well benefit North Bay. You may not have realized that these are the secondary impacts of such an innovation economy. I've watched the city of Kitchener transform itself as a result of establishing an innovation economy there with Communitech anchoring one end of downtown Kitchener. Downtown Kitchener 10 to 15 years ago was a place where a lot of people didn't feel safe walking up and down the street. Some of you who've been there are nodding your head. And I see the same thing on your main street here in North Bay. Benton, people don't like to walk so much there at night time. There are these panhandlers, there are people sleeping on the street. Well, we had that in Kitchener as well. But now, that area of town has been completely transformed with new companies, new jobs, millennials, young, vibrant people, coffee shops, boutique restaurants. They're flourishing in the same way that I look forward to your downtown in North Bay flourishing. When you start to create some of these companies there, the people walking back and forth on the street create a vibrancy that wasn't there before. And now, yes, the street people are still there. The homeless people are still there. But they're just part of the local color. And people feel safe because of the density of people that's there. You've got 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds walking around, going back and forth between jobs, going to the restaurant, going to the theater. And they coexist with all the other elements of that downtown area. And of course, once you have that kind of a vibrant community, then in terms of the tourism that we have here, it flourishes even more. Once your university gets larger and larger, there'll be more parents dropping off their kids. There'll be people visiting. Right? Not only the educational institutions that are here, but your downtown area, your new community, and we've got something here that's just absolutely beautiful. I'm jealous of it. We don't have it. You're sitting on the shoreline of two wonderful lakes. You're in such a pristine, green, beautiful environment. That is a huge asset. I don't have that with me. Right? I come up here to get that. And with the local wealth that's been generated in our area, a lot of donors and philanthropists and investors have popped up. Entire generations, because I've watched 2 generations of startup founders that have emerged, and they stay on to help the next generation. And so we're seeing that virtuous cycle perpetuate itself in our area. I don't think that you quite have the density of startups yet that have cashed out and are ready to help the next generation of entrepreneurs. And I want to help you achieve that virtuous cycle. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. So in terms of what I view as being the 5 pillars of a successful innovation economy, here they are. Let me focus on the right column. I probably should have flipped it around. Okay, you need ideas. Where do many of those ideas come from? They come from primarily research institutes. They come from educational institutions. You've got Canada. You've got Nipissing. I don't see that many cities or towns in Ontario, anywhere in Ontario, not just northern Ontario, but anywhere in Ontario, where you have a population of about 50, 60,000 people, and you've got 2 tertiary institutes, Canada and Nipissing University. You've got real assets here. You've got those places where those bright new ideas for the next supply board could germinate. And then in order to help those ideas that are just popping up, those nascent ideas and the beginning of a new company really start to grow into something that people will take an interest in, you got to have a place where they're nurtured by people who have been there, done that, cashed out founders, mentors that have a lot of experience in terms of marketing to countries abroad, that have experience in manufacturing, that have experience in terms of financing a startup. You've got to have a place where those companies can receive that coaching and that help. You've got a few. You've got ION, you've got ICAM. So congratulations for that. But don't just think that all your eggs should be in those 2 baskets. And in fact, where I live, there's probably on the order of 30 to 40 incubators and accelerators. And they have specialties, right? So it's not that you have to have a huge hub where this happens. There can be incubators sort of spread around the campuses here, the downtown area. Right? They're complementary. They're not competing. And then you've got to have people with experience to help the people who are coming after them. So you need executives in residence or entrepreneurs in residence at the incubator. You've got to have exactly the kind of consultants that NOA has spread throughout its city. People like Chad, people like Larry, right? They have a lot of experience and they can guide the new founders and new entrepreneurs. And then you've got to have the builders, the scientists, the programmers, the people that will take that wonderful idea and turn it into something real. And then there's capital. And congratulations for having Northern Ontario Angels in your community. I think that Ian was modest when he said one of the top angel groups in North America. I know that for several years in the past, it was not number 1 in Canada. It was the number 1 angel group in all of North America, right here in Northern Ontario. And of that, I'm jealous because you folks have been able to employ amounts of capital, right, that I didn't think was possible with the angel groups that I've been associated with. So again, you bring out a little bit of jealousy in me every time I come up here, and I see the successes that you have up here. Okay, next please. So in terms of what you have and where you need to go, what don't you have in abundance? Right? I talked about the bottom one, capital. You've got lots of it here. You've got people willing to help companies establish themselves in Northern Ontario. And they vote with their checks. So good on you for that. And you do have Nipissing and Canada. right? And the programs that they have will continue to grow, continue to flourish. What you don't have is you don't have a lot of people in terms of the innovation economy who've been there, done that, and are sticking around to help the next generation. Because we haven't had that history. Right? Where I live, there's been a 40-year history of people who been serial entrepreneurs, serial CEOs, and they keep on helping the next generation. They're part of the builders. And there are a lot of software engineers because at the University of Waterloo, where you have a few faculty members in computer science, we have about 200 faculty members in computer science. Right? So there is critical mass, there's this density there, and we produce lots of students who are skilled in the trades of the future. And they are the builders, they are the scientists, they are the engineers that keeps our engine going. Next, please. And then, in terms of the other assets that I see here, I think it used to be a huge differential between real estate in the GTA and real estate here. I think that differential is starting to shrink, especially during the pandemic when so many people fled Southern Ontario and came up here and started buying homes here and working from North Bay. That's good, but I think that your large advantage over real estate pricing is starting to erode a bit. Okay. Well, you got this enjoyable lifestyle that I certainly come to appreciate. I talked about the environment, and then something that you have as far as your relationship to the GTA. You're about the right distance, right? Close enough to be able to bring some people here, but far enough that you're not the GTA. You don't inherit their problems of traffic, of pollution, right? This is a beautiful place to be. Okay, and then other specialties that I see here, where you have particular advantages that are really strong here. Avionics, nursing, the education programs that you have. And I've got tech companies that actually produce products and innovations in those spaces. And I would love to bring some of them up here to introduce the practitioners that you're producing in these fields. And then I'll tell you, one of the things that have impressed me the most during the 3 or 4 years that I've been spending here off and on is the local determination within your community, amongst your investors, amongst some of the business leaders here, amongst the university folks, and the city government, is that you are determined that you want to change the way that North Bay is, to become something that is bigger, something that is better. Adopting, however it can, some of the best practices that I may be able to point out, from my forays into similar ecosystems in Waterloo, Toronto, San Francisco, Boulder, Buffalo, right? And I think we'll get there, right? It won't happen overnight. And in fact, the roadmap that I'm laying out talks about things that you can do within 2 years, short term, that will have almost immediate impact. And then there are things that will take longer, 3 to 5 years. And then there are things that will actually take up to 10 years before you see visible change, visible impact. And so it's short term, medium term, and long term. My job has been made easier in terms of recommending something to do as far as the long term plan. A few years ago, I was going to recommend that we lobby the Ministry of Education to incorporate STEM education, stronger STEM education, in the whole K-12 system, so that you don't have to import your talent, you grow it right here. Well, fairly recently, the Ministry of Education produced this edict that coding has to be learned within the whole K-12 system, starting at grade 1. All right? So you can take that 10-year goal and put a check mark next to it. Okay, next slide, please. There are a lot of people who are rooting for you. Institutions here and institutions that I work with, people that I work with outside of North Bay. I can't wait until your next Bay Day, where it becomes a local celebration of what you have and where you're going, where I can bring a lot of these people up here to act, to learn about what you have and to be your partners. Okay. Next, please. Oh, before I leave that slide, I'll tell you something else that I've been very impressed with. And that is the talent in your school system. When I talk to the youngsters that are part of your local FIRST robotics team, I was completely blown away by their talent, by their ability to integrate marketing, finance, funding, software development, and hardware to actually build these robots that fight against other robots. Your FIRST robotics team from North Bay beat the crap out of other teams. They are on the world stage, right? And they are proof that the talent that you have here within your community is very strong. It needs to be nurtured. And in fact, those people who are in high school should be coaches and role models for people in K through 6. Okay. Next slide, please. So let me switch gears just a little bit, and I'm sure that I'll come over time, but if you can indulge me, in some advice that I would give to new entrepreneurs, and I know that there's some in the room, right? Solve a big problem. Don't solve something that has a smaller impact. There's a professor of economics. His name is Larry Smith at the University of Waterloo. And he talks about great, big, audacious problems that the world has. And he challenges his students to come up with ideas and solutions for some of them. Huge problems. And sometimes I take a look at the proposals from entrepreneurs and I look at it and think, this is not going to impact very many people. This is not going to have a lasting impact, right? You're thinking it at too small a scale and too small a problem. Think bigger. So I'm not going to talk about each one because I am out of time. But I'm happy to talk to founders and entrepreneurs and share about what I've heard and talking to thousands of them, what they do well, what they don't tend to, what they tend not to do well. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, my sons are in their 30s now. They've gone through the university education system. But if I had theoretical sons or daughters that are 18, 19, 20, what would I advise? What advice would I give to them in terms of their careers? And it would be along these lines. Consider careers in data science. And guess what? Again, another one of those check marks that are in the report. Without my really doing anything, the Nipissing University has recently come up with a whole program in data science. Something that is a discipline that's needed for just about every industry, banking, finance, transportation, everything, medical sciences. And several years ago, people in Toronto couldn't hire data scientists even if they were waiting $200K, $300K salaries at people who were experts in this area. There's such a crying need for people with this expertise. And Nipissing will be graduating data scientists. So good on Nipissing. And then there's the area of cybersecurity. I'll get into that shortly. Green energy and environmental sustainability. Right? In order to help with the effects of climate change. It's here, it's real, and if we don't do something about it and produce people with knowledge about how to find solutions, we're going to be in big trouble. All right. Okay, let's move on. Okay, why cybersecurity? Millions of experts in this field are needed. And with every educational institution that I visit, you've got to ramp up the program for cybersecurity. Because without more professionals helping to guard our plant, our nuclear plants, our companies, our financial institutions, our banking systems, right, we're just vulnerable to attacks from abroad and within. And just this week, this last headline was as recent as this week. Cyber attack were reported at airports. They think that the people who are penetrating the airports and trying to bring down the airport system are from Russia, possibly in retaliation for the U.S. support of Ukraine in the war that's going on over there. But we are all vulnerable. Now, you folks have a unique institution here at North Bay. You have NORAD. NORAD looks for threats from the sky. They look for macro threats, missiles, planes. But now, it's not that we don't need to do that. In fact, if Putin starts launching nuclear weapons, we're going to have to be more vigilant than ever. But the new attack vectors are things like microorganisms and cyber malware. We've seen what has happened to this world when a single virus was set loose, right? It brought the whole world to its knees for 2 years. We hid in our homes for 2 years. Just imagine if someone were to engineer something that was even deadlier and to use that as a weapon. This is why people who are doing a lot of research in the areas of virology and micro and bioengineering are essentially the new soldiers of the future, because this is where the threats come from, as well as cyber threats. All right, next one, please. Okay, so here's NORAD, and unless we have the new cyber soldiers of the future, the scientists, the engineers who know how to guard against these threats, our nuclear plants are under attack. Our communication systems can be wiped out within a matter of hours, and planes in the sky are vulnerable. Next, please. So my challenge to North Bay, to the people who are entrepreneurs within this audience, is solve a big problem. And with the kind of mentorship that I hope that they can receive here, with the kind of support, both capital and experience from other people that they would be able to receive, you folks can take on the